Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 275, cover dated April 1991. Now this, as it says in the cover box here, is a giant size 275th issue spectacular, so it's more than double size in terms of the interior story page count. The cover here is a triple gatefold cover by Jim Lee and Scott Williams. I'm going to open that out for you now. Oops. And hopefully you can see all of that on screen. And centrally you've got this mysterious figure whose identity is yet to be revealed. Psylocke, Wolverine, Forge, Jubilee, Storm, Banshee and Gambit, the current members of the X-Men roster. And there are two stories in this particular issue that are told, picking up on storylines explored in issues 273 and 274 previously. So first of all, concerning Magneto and Rogue in the Savage Land, facing the antagonist Zaladane, who in previous issues of Uncanny X-Men absorbed Lorna Dane Polaris's mastery of magnetism and is using it potentially in a fashion that could destroy the world. And then in a galaxy far, far away, we have Lilandra, Gladiator and Deathbird, and some confusing battles between Deathbird and her sister in terms of whose side should the X-Men be on. Okay, so if we open to the splash page, we have the Starjammers there with this mysterious figure bursting in through the hull of a spaceship. And it is this one here, that's the Starjammer ship there. This is a Shi'ar Apocalypse class flagship of the Imperial fleet, as is revealed in the narration there. And our creative team is Chris Claremont, Jim Lee, Scott Williams inking, Tom Orzechowski letterer, Glynis Oliver and Joe Rosas colorists. And there's a special thanks to Carl Alstetter, who was a member of Jim Lee's Homage Studios and whose credit here is likely an inking credit. It's not specified here, but Alstetter did jump in to help out with the inking at Homage Studios. So just a little note here, there's a use of geo tone in the background there. These pages are likely inked by Scott Williams. So what we have here is picking up from the end of 274. Deathbird has the X-Men imprisoned. Wolverine is determined to get free. Jubilee intervenes, and it turns out that Zaladane's creature that's holding them prisoner can only counteract one power at a time. So Wolverine gets loose and he takes on Zaladane there in this tremendous two-panel page. Great anchor image there, again by Jim Lee. She seems to best Wolverine, but he fights back, and she counters him. She has the drop on him there and stabs him with her spear, and is run off by Jubilee. But it turns out that Wolverine is very much alive, and he asks Jubilee to remove the spear from his back, which he does, and then he goes after Zaladane. So Aurora then Storm instructs Jubilee to free the other X-Men, which she does, and then arrives in one of the Starjammers, Chod, and Lilandra and so Lilandra and Aurora know each other of old from the X-Men's first adventure in space, going back all the way to Uncanny X-Men 108, 109. So they reunite there. And what happens is Lilandra catches Storm up on what's going on, and the X-Men vow to help Lilandra take on Gladiator and his team. And so then we move to this amazing 2-page splash here, featuring the X-Men against the Imperial Guard. And you have here from Claremont the names of all the characters featured on the page. So handy for new readers, as I was at the time when I originally picked up this issue, as a back issue indeed. And a practice that it would be good maybe for inclusion in today's comics too. So Deathbird is making her escape. She is trying to escape by shuttle, but Wolverine has tracked her by scent. Then we have the X-Men, Gambit, Psylocke fighting the Imperial Guard there. And ultimately, the X-Men and Lilandra's troops triumph. So there we have Gladiator a prisoner, and Wolverine returns having bested and knocked out Deathbird. So after that then, we have the big reveal as regards who this mysterious figure with the silver helmet has been, and it turns out to be Professor X himself, who was last seen in the X-Men comics with issue 200, Uncanny X-Men 200, when he was physically sick, and Lilandra took him to her homeworld in order to treat him. And because the ship was damaged, they were unable to return to Earth, and so he hasn't been in the company of his X-Men since Uncanny X-Men 200. So this is a reuniting of Professor X with these old hands, Wolverine, Banshee, and Storm, of course. These newer X-Men figures have never met Professor X before. Some of them are skeptical, including Jubilee. And then the story switches to the other storyline from Uncanny X-Men 274, and that is what's going on in the Savage Land. So we have on these pages a Dawn helicopter attack squad moving in on Zaladane's fortress with the intention of attacking her and her troops by surprise. Little fun detail here. This particular pilot, if you look closely, his name tag indicates that he's Portacio, and he's got a little pencil moustache over his mouth there, and this is indeed like a little portrait of Whilce Portacio, a key member of Jim Lee's Homage Studios at the time. Now, I've been looking at this again in advance of making the video, and I don't think that Scott Williams is the main inker on these pages. And it seems to me that this is where Karl Alstetter, where his hand is evident, and the pages he must have been working on as Williams worked on the bookending storyline of what's going on in the Shi'ar Empire. So what's going on here is that Rogue and Fury are debating the plan, which is the Russian general Semyonov's plan, and Ka-Zar is giving his opinion on things too. Meanwhile, Magneto is flying beside the helicopter attack squad, and he is going to, or the plan is that he help defend them against Zaladane's magnetic powers. But what happens in the middle of this is that Semyonov goes a bit nuts. And the reason for it is that Magneto, in years previous, Uncanny X-Men 150 to be precise, sank a Soviet nuclear submarine, and aboard that ship, it's revealed, was Semyonov's son. So he goes nuts and he attacks Magneto from behind. Magneto smashes into the helicopter that contains Rogue, Fury, and Ka-Zar. And then the remaining ships without Magneto's protection become prey to Zaladane's pterosaur troops. So then the scene switches. Rogue is unconscious and she is getting attacked by a dinosaur there, somewhat like a T-Rex. The body armor that she's wearing protects her. At this point in the storyline, she is bereft of her usual powers of invulnerability and super strength. But when she lashes out at the dinosaur, it turns out that a portion of her super strength has returned as she knocks the dinosaur out with one punch. Then we see what became of the other crew members of the helicopter, including Portacio here, who has his guts ripped out by these vicious dinosaurs. Zabu and Ka-Zar interrupt, but too late to save the other crew members. Fury here descending from a tree loaded up with munitions and supplies. And so then they make their plan as regards what to do next. And the scene switches to Zaladane's fortress, and it's revealed that Semyonov has turned up there and is offering his services to negotiate for Zaladane with the UN so that her territory of Antarctica could be recognized as a sovereign state and join the family of nations at the UN. Our scene switches back to Rogue, Fury, and Ka-Zar in the thick Savage Land jungle, making their way towards Zaladane's fortress. Again, this is a page I really don't think that this is Scott Williams inking here. The way the stubble is rendered here really doesn't seem like him. Also, it's my opinion that these pages and this portion of the text have been coloured by Joe Rosas, since it doesn't really look like Glynis Oliver's colours. Then back at the Citadel Fortress, Zaladane is using the equipment there to take all of Magneto's own powers of magnetism, and it seems to be going successfully, but a side effect of the process is some insight into Magneto's own dark history, his experience of the Holocaust, the death of his daughter Anya, who's burned to death on account of his display of his mutant powers in an Eastern European village, where the villagers burn him out of his house, and it's his daughter that dies, also his wife. And then there's a memory here of this particular woman, Isabel, that later on in South America, Magneto had a relationship with, and she had her throat cut by people he considered allies. And that story is told for the first time, but it's in continuity now for this issue as a backup feature in Classic X-Men number 19, and very much worth a look at. And perhaps I'll make a video on the two main stories featuring Magneto in the Classic X-Men backup strips. And also an interesting bit here where he remembers an encounter with the Shadow King, which is not otherwise in continuity. There's no issue to point to there. So some of the speculation online is that it may be a reference to what happened at the end of Uncanny X-Men 269, where Magneto intervened in the fight between Rogue and a Shadow King controlled Carol Danvers. So it may be a reference to that. Okay. So Magneto is severely weakened and aged By the process, Zaladane is not able to fully absorb all his powers, so he's down but not entirely out. Then what we have is a ruse by Rogue and her team, where it appears she's being chased by this dinosaur, but in fact it is a hologram generated by one of Fury's shield devices. So they make their way into the Citadel, and they're witness to Magneto being dragged away by the enslaved Nereel and Shanna, who is Ka-Zar's wife. So Magneto spots the trio here, and he makes his move, and Fury and the others act and take out Zaladane's allies in the Citadel. Rogue discovers that her powers have returned. Semyonov moves to protect Zaladane, and Rogue rescues Magneto from falling masonry. So Rogue and the others continue the fight. In the meantime, Magneto, unobserved by everyone, makes his way back to one of Brainchild's machines, and uses the machine to restore his magnetic powers, but not in time to save Rogue from an attack by Zaladane. He finds himself under the gun of Semyonov, and he uses this metallic cable with his powers returned to punch it through Semyonov's chest, and then electrocutes him. So Rogue is really upset by this. Magneto, that's enough. She exclaims, while Magneto has Zaladane in his power. And then we get this 12-panel debate between primarily Rogue and Magneto about what path he's going to take, and how he should spare Zaladane so that she can face justice at an international or world court. And he explains, I'm not Charles Xavier. I will never be Charles Xavier. I was a fool to try. He's referencing his time as headmaster of the New Mutants. And then he basically kills Zaladane. So, and this is a great little panel here where he uses his powers to construct his costume out of raw materials in the area, and flies away, warning Rogue and the others that the Citadel is now unstable and likely to fall apart. So she uses her power on Worm to use his power on everyone within the Citadel to get them out, so everyone's saved. And Magneto, this throughout 274 and 275, we've been witness to his inner thoughts in these monologue panels. And he says here regarding Rogue, she looks after me, a last imploring entreaty. That part of me will always yearn to accept, but my choice is made, my destiny set. And from this fateful crossroads, we go our separate ways. And the next time that we see Magneto is in Adjectiveless X-Men #1. Okay, so then our story goes back to the Shi'ar throne world and the celebratory party for Lilandra's reinstatement as Magistrex of the Shi'ar Empire. And we have all these different races present, including what looks like a Skrull, and that is indicative of something that is coming up later on in this particular storyline. We also note here the use of duo shade and a color hold here for this character's holographic computer device. So we're back to, in my opinion, Scott Williams on inks for this portion of the story. And this is a nice page here of the X-Men kind of relaxing and enjoying the party. But Storm is wondering why Deathbird ensured that they were teleported aboard the ship, and that she thought the X-Men would help her and not Lilandra. So there's a little bit of a puzzle here. Then our focus switches to what the other X-Men are up to. Wolverine starting fights in local taverns. Psylocke uneasy in terms of her being around Professor X and wondering about that, and then being attacked by this unseen figure and knocked unconscious. Then we catch up with Jubilee, who's also roaming around and who witnesses Deathbird having been tortured perhaps, and a decision being made that she should be executed on the quiet. Also, we see Gladiator and his girlfriend. I just need to check out, what is her name again? Oracle. Imprisoned and with this mysterious figure in silhouette here. And Oracle attacking him psychically, but him proving more than a match for her psychic power. And then Gambit also turns up and has been surreptitiously keeping an eye on what's been going on outside the party. So he's there and he ensures that Jubilee stays quiet while Gladiator attacks the mysterious figure. But he's bested by this figure. And then what happens is the big reveal as to who it is. And it turns out to be apparently Professor X, who says, by whatever means necessary, the X-Men will serve the cause. And when we have no further need of them, they will be destroyed. So what on earth is all this about? Could it be that Professor X has turned to the dark side? Naturally enough, to find out, one has to pick up the next issue, 276. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned for more content like this.